everyone. I am so excited to talk about today's topic. And it's one very near and dear to my heart because people often are like, what's your growth strategy? And I am excited to talk about it and unveil it in this particular webinar because I always have a rather complex answer. And I have a complex answer for this one, but specifically in this webinar, it's going to be geared towards how CFO services particularly help healthcare practices with their growth prescriptions. So let's jump right in. Thanks again for joining me. We're going to dive into the topic that's increasingly crucial for healthcare practice growth because I find that physicians are the ones that are burning themselves out the most in their practice. So it's so important for you to have the strategy or the prescription for growth in your practice because we don't want you to be of failing health while you're caring for other people's health, right? So whether you're managing your private clinical practice, a specialized practice, or a large healthcare facility, the financial landscapes can be a daunting task. And quite frankly, it's often something that physicians don't even want to do because it's not your level of expertise, right? It's not your interest. Just like caring for patients is far beyond my level of expertise. So hiring a CFO to come in and take on and be that CFO in your back pocket without an equity stake in your firm or even a six-figure salary is really key to the landscape and the financial leadership in your business. So it really doesn't have to be daunting, right? Today, let's explore how CFO services can provide you the strategic oversight and expertise needed to thrive in the challenging time, or even if it's not challenging, how we help you to already have a plan. So when a roadblock or a pothole is seemingly ahead, you already know what the strategy could be to pivot, right? You have options. You can make well-informed business decisions. And that's what our goal is always for you to do, is make well-informed business financial decisions. So we're going to start by setting the stage. Healthcare practices operate in a financial ecosystem, right? So it's very much unlike any other business, which is why our level of CFO services, particularly for our healthcare practice owners, is so unique because we realize that you guys work in a very different financial ecosystem. So we're not just dealing with straightforward transactions expenses going out, money coming in. We're navigating through insurance reimbursements, complex regulatory requirements, intricate billing cycles. It's just so many other pieces to the puzzle as it pertains to healthcare practices. So managing these aspects requires more than just basic accounting knowledge or basic bookkeeping, right? It demands a deep understanding of the unique financial dynamics at play, which is precisely where a CFO for healthcare practices come into play. See, oftentimes people think CFOs are for Fortune 500 companies. And as I say all the time, CFOs are for anyone that's in a full-time business because who is helping you between bookkeeping and tax preparation? There's a whole lot of financial strategy that should be happening during that time. And if you're missing out on that huge piece of the puzzle, you will be missing out madly, and not just tax liabilities, but it could impede on the timing of your transition or your exit strategy because you have no strategy and you have no one giving you that financial foresight. And CFOs and Fortune 500 companies did not help them get there after they became Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 or Fortune 50. They got there and they became these companies through financial strategy. And that's what we help you do the same. I find that working with healthcare practices, the key challenges are much of what I just touched on: insurance reimbursements, regulatory compliance, and usually cash flow management. Those are the top three things that I see. And in insurance reimbursements, navigating the slowness, because yeah, we know how slow insurance companies can take to reimburse and pay its practitioners. And often this can get complicated where claims get denied and you have to resubmit them, and who's monitoring those claim denials and who's resubmitting those claim denials to make sure there's no gaps in you receiving your income, right? So that's a huge challenge. Regulatory compliance, let's get into that. Staying compliant with consistently changing healthcare laws and regulations can be a challenge. And while that's not something we directly do as your fractional CFO, what we do is leave space for you to have someone on your team know exactly what to do to remain compliant. And we do work closely with them. So while we may be gaining the knowledge and we may even have the knowledge to help guide you along the way, at least you have the resources available and someone who collaborates not just with you, but with your team as the CFO in your back pocket, or even your CFO as your team in your team's back pocket, right? So we work with you, the business owner, and your team, but we're always the advocate for the business owner, if that makes sense. We are your partner first because your strategy is what's important and key to us. And cash flow management, ensuring there's enough cash on hand to cover the daily operations and unexpected expenses, and to fill the gaps when there are delays in insurance reimbursements. So who's helping you to strategize behind the projections of time? Like oftentimes you can calculate the ebbs and flows of when payments will come in, especially from certain insurance companies. There's timelines attached to it and all of those things. So it can be a pretty easy thing for us to navigate, but not so easy for you to navigate because you're trying to stay in the practice and care for patients and do the thing that you love to do in your business. And that's where we come into play. So I want to jump into a quick case study. And this specific case study, I have a couple actually. I think, let me not give a couple because I want to keep this rather brief, and then if you have other questions or there's clarification needed, I'll give you a QR code at the end to hop on my calendar and we'll talk further, and it'll probably deep dive into other case studies. But I want to share with you one of my clients. We're going to call her Dr. Smith. So Dr. Smith has a psychology practice. Her psychology practice had been running super smooth for about 4 years before she came to us for services. She did have a bookkeeper managing her day-to-day transactions, and she had outsourced her billing component to an outsourced billing person, which I think at that time was charging her about 8%. For them to handle her billing and claims piece. So those were her pieces of the puzzle: the bookkeeper and her billing and claims department. Oh, and she did have a person, or actually I think she was just going to like an H&R Block or a larger like Jackson Hewitt, a large tax firm to get her taxes done. So she didn't have anyone giving her direct tax strategy, but she's filing her taxes. So she recently came to us and she noticed that her cash flow was tightening. The insurance reimbursements was taking far longer than usual. And she realized that she was an expert, while she was an expert in psychology care and patient care, the financial side of her practice needed a lot more attention, and attention that, quite frankly, she didn't have the interest or the desire to provide. So that's where hiring a fractional CFO came into place. So Dr. Smith found us. I think she was actually referred through a current client. Yes, through a current client who has a similar practice. The other client is a therapist. And so she referred Dr. Smith to us to talk more about fractional CFO services and how it can help her in her psychology practice. So one of the things that we were able to do within the first 3 months of working with Dr. Smith was to get a good hold of what her profit margins were looking like. No one had ever did an assessment for her on her profit margins. That's not just looking at her profit and loss statement from the income that's coming in, expenses that's going out, and then her net income, because quite frankly, that's what most business owners do, and that is what you're supposed to do. But there's numbers in between there that require some deeper diving into analyzing what that data is telling us. So that's what we did in the first 3 months, is gathered all of her data and excavated the data to see what is it telling us. And the first thing we noticed was we needed to optimize her claim processes. And a lot of that optimization came through working closely with that outsourced billing person or billing company. And after we worked with them, we were able to reduce her average payment cycle by at least 20%, which means now she has revenue coming in faster. The next thing that we did was, like I said, assessed her profit margins. So she not only knows that she's profitable, but what is the margin of that profitability? Is it what she needs it to be for her personal growth of this business and strategy for whenever she desires to transition, or for even the lifestyle that she either wants to currently uphold or the lifestyle she wants to start to live and travel and buy whatever it is she wants to buy? Like, does these profit margins make sense for her personal growth and the professional growth of the business? If she needs to hire, are the profit margins wide enough where she has room to take on new employees and new hires? A big part too was her profit margins big enough to take the risk of growth that I had for her, which was to grow her practice through bringing in therapists. And through that process, though, there is a risk because there could be a lag time in that person growing their book of business while you still have to cover their salary, depending on the agreement that you have when you bring them in. So navigating all of those challenges was a big step and a big help for Dr. Smith. And then the last piece was, how do we create a forecast for her so she understands, okay, when I don't have this one-to-one monthly meeting with my fractional CFO, how can I still make well-informed business decisions financially? So what we did was implement a budget system. And I actually have been trying to think of a sexy word for budget, because nobody likes budget. Nobody likes it, right? It's the B word that's like a curse. So I have yet to come up with a sexy word for it. And when I do, I'm going to start using that besides budgeting. But budgeting gets a bad rep because it sounds and it's often giving a restrictive connotation. And I don't look at budgeting as restrictive at all. Budgeting is just a simple guideline. It's a guideline to know and help you to what parameters you need to stay within, or even if you go beyond those parameters, because a lot of people in your budget is also your income. When we do a budget, the first thing we talk about is how much income you're going to bring in. So it's not just how much you're spending, but also your income. So within that budget that we created for her, it was a challenge with, I think we had challenged her with increasing her income by, I think it was 15% within the next 6 months. And she had never had anybody sit with her and actually give her a guide and give her tailor-made steps on how to make that a thing, right? She just knew it was something she wanted to do, but no one ever told her how. How are you going to achieve that? So through this budget, the budget was her guide when she didn't have the one-to-one meeting scheduled to navigate that. However, a big part of what she found helpful is we give our clients, I hate to say the name of it because it changes often and the platform could change, but it's like a Slack channel or like a Teams channel. All of our clients get one of those so they can ask questions in real time, direct with our accounting team. And it helps them to also navigate those decisions. So we've had clients that are in the middle of settling a business loan, and they pop in to clarify questions as it pertains to that. So it can be used in so many different ways. And that's what Dr. Smith all found very valuable as she worked to expand and figure out how her cash flow was becoming so tight in her psychology practice. So as a result, her practice not only regained financial health, but it also positioned her for growth. And she has now 3x'd her practice since coming to us. I think it's been 2.5, almost 3 years ago now. So on average, that is the result that we have with our clients, is typically within the first year, they usually at least 1x. And within the first few months, we have clients that have 300% ROI on our monthly flat fee. And this is why I tell people fractional CFO is an investment that gives you the return probably quicker than any other flat fee payment out there. Honestly, I'm trying to think of any other ones that I've seen on my clients that have given returns faster than our service. And the reason usually is because we have an advantage that the fractional CFO space is such a newer buzzword space. And most practitioners have never worked with a fractional CFO. So when they come to us, it's a green but clean slate for us to begin strategizing immediately. So they immediately can see the returns, usually within the first couple months, on the investment that they pay us for our services. And so our role as the CFO in streamlining your operations as well is key. So often people are like, but you're a CFO. How does that have anything to do with operations? Just like you've heard me already reflect to the importance of CFO services and how it aligns with your personal life and not just your business. CFOs don't just manage your finances. They help you to shape the operational backbone of your practice. And we do this by, again, the budgeting and the forecasting is a big part of that, because developing a realistic budget helps you with fluctuations in your revenue and in your expenses. But through expense management, identifying where you can reduce costs, where can you reduce costs without compromising patient care, right? And also, where can you reduce costs to streamline your processes operationally, like your payroll process, your procurement process, and billing, to ensure everything runs smoothly and efficiently. So sometimes cost reductions may not be the best, because depending on how much revenue you have going in, you may need to be spending more, right? So in that matters to know as it pertains to even future year growth, because there is something called strategic spending in your business. And that's when we talk in our meetings about, okay, the income that's coming in has been awesome. The profit margins are phenomenal, but we need to reinvest some of this money in the business so taxes don't hit us so hard. But then there's even strategies behind how much to reinvest, because that's dependent on if you have growth coming up within the next year or two, and one of your ways of growing is using someone else's cash, i.e. a business loan of sorts, then you don't want your financials to show that tight on your profit and loss statements, and your balance sheet. So that's a piece of the streamlining of operations and the financial strategy and how it goes hand in hand together. So you can think of it as like fine tuning an engine, right? Everything needs to work in harmony in order for the car to start and move forward and navigate you along the journey along the way, right? So the other piece is, how do we enhance the cycle of revenue? And one of the most critical areas where CFO services are important and can shine, like I just said, is in the revenue cycle management, the RCM. We talked about how quickly CFOs can help increase revenue because there's often no one giving you financial insight, but revenue is the lifeblood of the practice, right? If without revenue, you can't stay afloat. So it involves managing everything from the patient registration to the final payment of the bill. So CFOs make a difference in this piece because we help you optimize your billing process to work with the company that does your billing or your in-house billing person to navigate how they're doing it. Is there ways we can streamline to help minimize and reduce errors or reduce those rejections that cause delays in payments and things like that? Also, navigating the complex web of insurance claims to maximize those reimbursements. And the last piece would be developing the policies that are not only effective, but also enhance the patient experience. So when I say those policies, I'm talking about those patient-centric financial policies. All that paperwork you give them to say if their insurance doesn't pay, they're responsible, all of those things, helping you to navigate how to actually implement those with ease that are in the best practice for not just you, but for patient care and your patients as well. And by focusing on these, CFO services transformed your revenue cycle, turning into the well-oiled engine that's in your car to help drive your practice forward. The last piece I'm going to touch on a bit, because it's obvious in your industry, not because it's a big part of where we focus, but that's the compliance and risk management. Huge, 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 huge important thing in your business. And people often don't realize that when you navigate into managing and taking on CFO services for healthcare practitioners, it's key that you at least have oversight of what the compliance risk management is as you navigate giving them financial strategy. Because healthcare practices staying compliant isn't just important, it's crucial. So non-compliance can lead to hefty fines. And what I don't plan to budget for when I do a budget for you is fines. Yes, there is a line item in there because yes, I'm realistic and I know it can happen, but we ain't gonna budget for that. We're not gonna budget for that. Like that is something that should not be happening. So if we can help with the hefty fines, navigating how not to have to deal with those, reputable damage, even the closure of your practice, right? Those are all very tough things. So how we help you safely navigate those waters is by helping you to get ahead of regulatory changes and ensuring your practice meets all of the legal requirements along with working with your current legal team. So we do not help you come up with these practices. I'm going to be very clear. If you are a practitioner or business owner, you should have a attorney on retainer. It's so important. I know it's an expense that you usually do not like to pay, but let me tell you why that's important, because they help you with risk mitigation and there's audit preparedness in there too. Excuse me. So if you have an attorney on retainer, which we as your CFO help you budget for, so it's not such a large expense and it doesn't feel like such a heavy lift, it makes it easier if the God forbid compliance or risk issue happens, because you have someone that already knows your business. And what I have found with people who don't have an attorney on retainer, when they do face the inevitable of even a small claim, they often pay at least 2 times more than what they would have paid had they had an attorney on retainer. And it's usually because they got to give that attorney the backstory of all the stuff that's happened in the business and give them all the history, everything pertaining to this case, and maybe even not, because those things not pertaining to it are key when they go and maybe if it gets to litigation or something like that. Where if you have a retainer that's on a monthly flat fee and God forbid the inevitable may happen, then you don't have to give them all that backstory because you're meeting with them, depending on your contract, it's likely a quarterly or biannually basis, and they're getting the update. So that's a piece that I wanted to touch on. Although it's not really directly financially driven, it is financially driven because we help you budget to have that attorney on retainer. So it's no longer a point of contention. So now, hopefully, you understand how a CFO is your growth prescription, right? Integrating CFO services into your practice isn't just about managing the finances. It's about setting up your practice for long-term financial success. By providing specialized financial oversight, our CFO services help you to streamline operations, optimize revenue, navigate the complexities of audits or any things that you have going on, tax planning, all the way to tax preparation, all for one monthly flat fee that sits there because you don't want to have to deal with the ebbs and flows of hourly rate. Oh, I need our CFO this week to sit in on a call with us, but next week I need her to sit in on a 4-hour meeting. All of that is already baked into your flat fee. So you're not sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I got to pay the hourly rate 4 times this month versus 10 times the next month, you know? So it's all at leveraging what you need and building the package that makes the most sense. And as a CFO of integrity, I will start out at the package that makes the most even kill sense. Because if you're in a package too big, then it can drown you. It can be a little tough and a little intimidating to navigate the waters of growth because the growth is going to be such a large scale. Now, we've had clients that came in and had exponential growth very quickly. But if you're right there in the middle, the scale of growth is easier to target and it makes it feel more attainable, right? Ultimately, every business owner needs financial strategy. And that's exactly what financial strategy is and what fractional CFO services are, is it's helping you to have that strategic investment that you can transform your practice into a financially healthy operations, resilient business, ready to meet the challenges for today and seize the opportunities that are ahead of you tomorrow. So thanks again for joining me in yet another webinar. This one, the growth prescription for CFO services and healthcare practices. Catch me on the next one. We'll talk more about different things to navigate and how CFO services help you navigate through making well-informed financial business decisions. We hope you're walking away with valuable insights as always, as into how services will make a difference in your healthcare practice. Until next time, I am Kellé. I think I just realized that I just did this whole webinar and just told you guys all about what you should do and didn't tell you who I am. But hopefully this isn't your first time joining me. If it is, I am Kellé, your fractional CFO from Commerce with Kellé, and I show CEO business owners how to strategically spend and optimize the profitability in their business. And that's through my profit acceleration methodology that I have worked almost 20 years in top AmLaw 100 law firms in different accounting positions, all the way up to CFO and Chief Administrative Officers. So it's been a fun journey ahead in my career in the C-suite of corporate America. And now I'm honored to work with you in your business and be your CFO in your back pocket. Till next time, see you real soon. Bye now.